Hello friends, this is Marilyn from Hillview Farms, where country runs deep. In this week's episode, I'm going to take you with me to pick grapes so we can make some homemade grape jelly. So this grapevine has been on our property for over 50 years that I know of. I'm not sure the exact age, but it is well over 50 years. It belonged to my husband's grandparents. Their house used to sit up here and they had gardens on both sides, and now it's still in the family. It's been passed down from generation to generation. So this is where I get all my grapes that I use to make my grape jelly each fall. That's good. Well, we're getting there. I need about 3.5 pounds, so probably about twice this many. If I can just pick them and not eat them, maybe I'll get enough to make jelly. Hey friends, thanks for joining me again this week. Today I'm going to be making homemade grape jelly. I picked 2 bags of grapes yesterday, and I hope this is going to be enough. Fingers crossed that we have enough, because it is not as pleasant out there today as it was yesterday when I picked these. So the first thing I need to do is wash the grapes. So once I've gotten the grapes washed well, then it's time to put them in a pot. And I know there's an easier way to do this, but I just squirt them. I just squirt the grape right out of the hull, squish them while I'm putting them in the pot. Because we're gonna cook the grapes. We're gonna boil them hull and all. So my grandchildren used to help their grandma make their grape jelly. And I'm sure that this is the way they squirted all of them because it was fun. I'm sure you could use something like a potato masher and you would get them all busted, but this is one way to make sure all the grapes are busted and to make sure you didn't leave any of the stems on there, because that wouldn't be good. So this is how we do it in our family. I squirted one out of the pot. It is kind of fun, you have to admit it. Oh, squirted myself. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my mother-in-law while we're putting up grape jelly. She was one of the sweetest, humblest people that I've ever known in my life. She was not a high-maintenance woman. She was very simple, and I don't mean that in a bad way. She didn't require a lot to be happy. She was one of the godliest people I've ever known. And she had a tremendous impact on my life and on my children's life. She wasn't one to spend lots of money on lavish pocketbooks or clothes or home decor, things like that. I mean, she had a pretty home and she dressed nicely, but I mean, those were not where her priorities lay. Now, she did love children, and in her later years, like in her late 50s, I say late 50s, I'm in my late 50s, oh my gosh. Anyway, whatever, in her later years, she opened a child care center here in our town, and it became one of the largest daycare centers in our county, and is still in our family being operated today. So she didn't require an awful lot of expensive material things, but she sure advocated for her child care center, and she advocated for her children. So making homemade grape jelly with her grandchildren is just exactly something that she would do. I mean, she would turn everything into an activity that they would enjoy, and they did. It was a fun activity for them. It was time they got to spend with their grandmother. They used to, even in high school, they would still go spend the night at their grandmother's on the weekend, all 4 of the grandchildren, and play cards. That was one thing she did love to do. Her and my father-in-law, they enjoyed playing cards with their friends. So they taught grandchildren how to play cards, and they would spend a night at grandma's house and play cards late into the night. And those are memories of her that they are going to cherish forever. And I want to have those kinds of memories with my grandchildren. I think I have a gracious plenty. I don't want my pot to boil over while I'm boiling these grapes, so I think I'm going to stop there, and I'll put the rest of these in a bowl in the refrigerator, because we do love to eat them right out of the refrigerator. Nothing like fresh grapes right off the vine. Now, my mother-in-law was not a complicated person. So she did not use complicated recipes when she made her grape jelly either. Basically, she used the recipe off the back of the box. Now, I did consult a few recipes online just to make sure they were pretty similar to this, and they are. You can, by all means, buy store-bought grape juice and use it to make your jelly. But it will not taste like this, no doubt, because store-bought grape juice doesn't taste like this. I mean, this tastes like grapes that you just plucked off the vine and popped in your mouth. And that's what you want. That's why we make homemade grape jelly, because it's a distinct taste that you cannot buy in the store. So with my grapes, I need to add 1.5 cups of water. I'm going to stir that together well, and then bring it to a boil and let it simmer. Now, the step we're doing is preparing our juice. So we're just extracting juice from the grapes. Once this is fully boiled and it has simmered for a while, then we're going to pour it through a strainer and get all the seeds and the hulls out. And what we're going to be left with is just pure muscadine grape juice. And honestly, if I have any left over, because I only need 5 cups of juice for this recipe of grape jelly. If there's any left over, I will add sugar to it and just make homemade grape juice to have in the refrigerator, because it is so good. And when you are done squishing your grapes, you're going to need to go around your kitchen and clean up all the grape juice that squirted all over your backsplash and your floors and your cabinets. Yeah. Y'all, this smells so good. Look at this. Now, sometimes I do like to take my potato masher while this is heating up and just squish the grapes really well, because basically all of the jelly-like interior of that grape is going to pretty much liquefy, and all that's going to be left is these grape hulls and seeds. So it doesn't hurt to take this and just go around it a few times and just press on it and help it out. It smells so good that I don't even want to turn my exhaust fan on. I just want it to fill up my whole house. Can y'all see how purple this juice already is? Look at that. See how they're falling all to pieces? The inside of the grapes have just about completely dissolved. It's mostly just hulls left. Oh, that smells so good. Now in this step, you can do it however is best for you. I'm not one to go out and buy a bunch of gadgets for a one-purpose use. That's just not who I am. I like to use what I have. I will make a mess with this. I know, it's fine. I don't do it that often. But basically, you just need to strain all of the pulp, all of the hulls and the seeds out of this juice so that all you have behind is the delicious grape juice. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a slotted spoon and go ahead and scoop out a lot of these hulls into my strainer. And I have a bowl underneath to collect any juice that strains out of this. And then I'm going to use a fine sieve or strainer to pour the juice back through and be sure to get all those tiny seeds and any other pieces of stem or whatever that may have been in the juice. So how you do this doesn't matter. It just matters that you do this. It is an important step. You can hear that juice poured in the bowl. My chickens are gonna love these grape hulls. They love grapes. I have a hard time keeping them off of our grapevine. We do have a grapevine down here on the farm, but I do have a hard time with my chickens that free range because they do love getting at least the ones on the bottom of the vine that they can reach. But they're gonna love these. I'll have to let them cool, but maybe by this evening as an evening treat before bedtime, I'll be able to take them down there. And some recipes call for you to use cheesecloth just to pour the liquid through and strain it that way. But again, cheesecloth is not something I use on a regular basis, and I just don't particularly want to go buy cheesecloth just for this purpose. So I do it my way, you do it however works best for you. I have a lot of juice in this pot. I'm going to let these hulls just sit in that strainer and see if anything else drains out while I go ahead and start doing my final straining of this juice. Now, I have just a little, like a tea bag strainer, and I've got another big bowl, and it just happens to sit right on top of the bowl. I'm just going to use a ladle, and I'll try to get as close to that pot as I can. I'm just going to pour one ladleful at a time through there. And this takes a little while because your juice has already gotten thick. So this may take a little while, but it's very important. Unless you want grape preserves, if you're okay with a few little seeds in it, you can just stop at this step and call it grape preserves. I think I'm going to have plenty of juice. So we'll definitely get to make some homemade grape juice to have in the fridge. Now at this point I have this much juice rendered, which I am pretty sure is more than 5 cups. So at this point, you can either press on and go ahead and complete your jelly making process, or you can put your juice in the refrigerator overnight and you can do the jelly making tomorrow. That is what I'm going to do. I got a really late start today in making this, and it is now 5 o'clock. So I'm going to wait till tomorrow, and I'll get back with you in the morning, and we're going to turn this delicious grape juice into delicious homemade jelly. Look at that. So that was 2 cups. That was almost 4. That's 5. 6. So we definitely have plenty of juice. Now I am going to let this cool because it is still a little bit warm before I put it in the refrigerator. And I have all of this to take to my chickens. They are going to be so happy. Okay, good afternoon. I'm back. Didn't get back at it this morning, but we're going to get it done today. I did refrigerate my juice last night, so I'm going to warm it up just a little bit on the stovetop just to bring it back up to room temperature before I add my sugar and my Sure Gel. And I had to go out and find some more jars because it looks like I may need 8 of the little half-pint jars. We'll see if I need that many, but I'm going to be prepared. So I'm going to go in while this is warming up. I'm going to wash all of these and get them sterilized. And then we'll start with our jelly. Because once we add the sugar and Sure Gel, it goes really, really fast. And you have to stand right with it and stir it. So I want to be prepared before we get to that point. Okay, so I have my jars sterilized and they're drying. And I'm about to turn the heat back up on my grape juice. It is time to add the pectin. Okay, my grape juice is warm, so I am ready to add pectin. And I like to use a whisk because I have had my pectin to want to clump up on me in the past, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to add just a little bit, and I am going to whisk it really, really fast and get all of that dissolved, and then I'll add a little bit more. I have found if you dump the whole pack in there at one time, you're going to end up with clumps. Pour and stir, and pour and stir. Okay, I managed to get all the pectin added without any of it clumping. I am using an online recipe I found that uses Sure Gel, and it does say to add a ½ teaspoon of butter, and that will cut down on the amount of foaming that you see. Anytime you're boiling fruit, there ends up being like a layer of foam on the top. And we're from the South, so adding a little bit of butter to anything is never a bad idea. Now we're supposed to bring it to a rolling boil, and that means one that will not stop bubbling whenever you stir it. So that may take just a few minutes. So they're serious about stirring because I just bent over long enough to take a casserole out of the oven. Maybe 4 seconds, and it already started sticking to the bottom. So I won't be walking away again. Another tradition that was passed down by my grandmother and my mother and my mother-in-law was that when there's a death in the community, you take a casserole. Okay? You take a casserole. So that's what I'm doing right now while I'm making jelly. I had a casserole baking. It's a rule. I don't know who made it up, but if you're from the South, it's a rule. And I'm so afraid that that is one of the rules of Southern women that may fall to the wayside with my generation, unless we keep passing these down to our future generations, our future daughters, our future wives. Okay, we have just reached the rolling boil point. I'm stirring and the boiling is not stopping. So at this point, I need to start adding my sugar. And it requires 7 cups of sugar. I kid you not. That's a lot of sugar, I know, but this is jelly. It's not something you're going to eat every single day of your life. It is going to be, you know, or around here it isn't. I don't eat jelly every day of my life. And we don't keep this around all year long. This will only be here probably a few weeks. And I'll eat it. When it's gone until next year. So don't try to cut back on the sugar. They do make a low sugar pectin that you can buy. And it may be fine. I've tried it before, but it didn't gel completely like it should have before. But I need 4 hands here. But if you do try to cut back on your sugar, it may not set as well. Okay, this is 4. Don't let me forget. This makes 4. Because the sugar is going to turn into like a syrup as it heats up. And that adds to the gelling property of the grape juice. Okay, 2, 4. This will make 6. And one more. Find the 1 cup mark. Right there. Okay, so I have all my sugar added. Now I'm supposed to stir it in completely until it dissolves, bring it back to another rolling boil, and then boil it for exactly 1 minute. So, pretty precise timing there. Y'all know I gotta taste it. Oh my gosh, that is divine. Y'all gotta trust me on this. You need to try it. I would sell you some, but you couldn't afford it. This takes a long time. It would cost about $50 a jar. If you're willing to pay $50 a jar for homemade grape jelly, you send me an email. hillviewfarms2020@gmail.com. Okay, I think we're at a rolling boil. Alexa, set timer for 1 minute.
1 minute, starting now.
Alexa, stop. Okay, that was 1 minute of continuous rolling boil. I don't know about you, but words like immediately and continuously stress me out. So the next step says to immediately start ladling them into the jars. So, okay, let me get my ladle. And we're going to immediately start pouring these into the jars. Okay. I will make a mess, no doubt, but that's okay. And it says to leave about 1/4 of an inch headspace, which is pretty much the bottom groove on your jar. There we go, that should do it. I have a variety of jar sizes, or they're all the same size, but shapes. A lot of my jars are still being used by my pear preserves, so I had to go out to the building and round up some more. Didn't even know I had these little short stocky ones, but they're cute. It is already starting to gel in this pot. So you do have to kind of do this immediately, even if it is stressful. Now I'm gonna just wipe off around the lip of the jar. Make sure I didn't leave any in the grooves here. We want to have a perfect seal, so we don't want any jelly in between the jar and the seal of the lid. Okay. Put the lid on there really tight. Give it another good wipe. And isn't that beautiful? And it's delicious. I've tasted it a few times again already. Phew, that last part was fast. I'm tired. Sweating too. But they turned out beautifully, and we did get 8 jars. We actually had about a half a jar left over, so I put that in another jar I found, and it's just going straight to the refrigerator, and probably won't last but a day or two. Now, I told you when I was putting up pear preserves that I'm not a canner. My family always froze our vegetables. So the only thing I ever can is grape jelly and pear jam, or pear preserves. So these will last for a couple of months or so. They'll last longer in the refrigerator. They're not going to be for long-term food storage. Okay, so if you do want to put up grape jelly for long-term storage, I would rather you just research safe canning practices yourself and follow those practices. So mine are just going to be put in the refrigerator. I'm going to share a few with my family, and they're not going to last long. Thank you for staying with me today. And yesterday, this was a 3-day process. I picked grapes on Sunday afternoon. I prepared the juice on Monday, and we finally got our grape jelly on Tuesday. So it does take a bit of time, but it's so worth it. It's very good. And it's good to pass down to your grandchildren also. Mine are still quite young, so handling hot, sticky jelly, hot boiling jelly, and hot glass jars is not really something I think they're ready for, but it is something I'm definitely going to share with them in the future. And they're going to have this video that they can always refer back to and see how Grandma made her jelly. So I had a lot of fun making this video this week, laughing at myself. There were a lot of bloopers. So I decided this video, I'm going to put the bloopers at the end so that you guys can laugh along with me. But the first blooper actually was in the opening scene when I was picking grapes. Did anyone catch that one? It was my shirt. I made this shirt for myself a few months ago and wore it to church that Wednesday night, the Bible study. And within 5 minutes of walking in, somebody pointed out to me that I had spelled the word fueled wrong. I spelled it F-E-U instead of F-U-E. So it has become one of my knock around the house and work around the farm shirts now. Making grape jelly with her grandchildren was one of the things that, it was just, making grape jelly with her grandchildren was just one of the things she did. That makes no sense. Well, I go ahead and start doing my final, what's it called? While I go ahead and start doing my final straining. Now we're supposed to bring it to a rolling boil. So I am ready to add pectin, and I like to use a what do you call this thing?